If you're a fan of Classroom of the Elite, you already know exactly who we're talking about today. Ayanokoji Kiyotaka, the absolute epitome of the silent, calculating mastermind. But have you ever stopped to wonder, what if his seemingly superhuman intellect isn't just, anime magic? What if the underlying principles of his strategy are actually completely grounded in real-world logic? Well, in today's Explainer, we're going to totally deconstruct the ultimate anime strategist, break down his exact methodology, and figure out how we can actually apply it to our own lives. Let's dive in.
Think about that intense, flawless calculation he always pulls off. The glowing eyes, the completely shattered chessboard. None of that is about passion or luck or some fiery willpower trope. It is entirely about seeing the endgame before the opponent even realizes the match has started. It's about securing an imminent mate that is literally mathematically guaranteed. So that brings us to the million-dollar question, right? Can you actually learn to play like a 250 IQ anime genius? Is it really possible to rewire your brain to process information this way? Surprisingly, the answer is a resounding yes. We can absolutely take this fictional high schooler who casually acts like a walking supercomputer and pull out a real-world, step-by-step masterclass that you can apply today. And I'm not just talking about chess here. This goes for literally any strategic endeavor, from your daily planning to high-stakes negotiations.
Here is our calculation tree for today's Explainer. We'll start with the 250 IQ strategist, then cover why Ayanokoji never loses, stop playing hope chess, master the calculation tree, a universal opening repertoire, and finally, the Ayanokoji mindset.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, the 250 IQ strategist, and treating the board as math.
Picture Ayanokoji alone in the dark, just meticulously analyzing the pieces. This approach is, by design, entirely robotic and structured. He isn't relying on a gut feeling, and he definitely isn't sitting around waiting for a sudden spark of inspiration. He's simply running computations. He lays the foundation for perfect play by treating every single move as having an objective, quantifiable value. It's basically a giant math problem waiting to be solved.
Moving right along to Section 2, why Ayanokoji never loses. The 3 pillars.
When you contrast the messy emotional reality of us normal players with his pristine system, the differences are honestly pretty stark. Let's look at state of mind. Normal players, we experience tilt, we get scared, or we get overly confident. Ayanokoji operates with pure psychological objectivity. In terms of calculation, average players usually just make a move and hope for the best, while he's mapping out deep, branching trees. And for theory, we lean heavily on intuition, but he relies entirely on deep, engine-perfect theory.
And to give you a real idea of just how deep this actually goes, think back to his match against Sakayanagi. In that showdown, he demonstrated the absolute superhuman ability to calculate over 30 moves ahead. 30. Because he treats the board like a mathematical equation, mapping out branching possibilities 30 moves deep isn't magic to him, it's just pure data processing.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 3, stop playing hope chess. Time to move from fiction to reality. Emulating this robotic style requires some seriously rigorous, disciplined improvement. Step 1 is studying the classics. You want to look at legends like Bobby Fischer or Garry Kasparov to truly understand space domination. But Step 2, this is where the modern Ayanokoji approach really shines. Engine analysis. You don't just look for massive blunders. No, you use tools like Stockfish 16 to find those tiny, micro inaccuracies. You want to know exactly why a move evaluated at positive 0.4 was chosen over a positive 0.8. True mastery is literally born in those tiny fractions.
Section 4. Master the calculation tree and build your pattern recognition.
Okay, here is your daily protocol. First, force yourself to identify exactly 3 candidate moves every single turn. Second, calculate the responses to each of those moves at least 3 to 5 plies, which are half moves deep. Seriously, do not even touch a piece until you've fully mapped it out. Finally, run tactical drills constantly on platforms like Puzzle Rush or Chess Tempo. Drilling this builds that lightning-fast pattern recognition. It trains your brain to see the calculation tree automatically, which is a skill that translates incredibly well to solving complex problems in real life.
Next up, Section 5, a universal opening repertoire, building uncrackable foundations. You'll notice Ayanokoji completely avoids flashy, cheap tricks that rely on the opponent making a silly mistake. His choices reflect pure objectivity. Playing as white, leaning into systems like the English opening or the Queen's Gambit prioritizes suffocating, long-term structural advantages. As black, utilizing incredibly solid defenses like the Nimzo Indian or Petrov's defense instantly neutralizes the opponent's initiative. It's never about setting a trap. It's about building an unbreakable wall that the opponent eventually just bashes their own head against.
Finally, we hit the climax of our explainer. Section 6, the Ayanokoji mindset, achieving ultimate objectivity.
To pull this whole thing together, you absolutely have to master this wild duality. On one hand, you have the calm, emotionally detached exterior, untouched by insults, completely unafraid of higher-ranked opponents, and totally indifferent to glory. But on the other hand, there is this intense, engine-like focus underneath it all. It's a paradox, right? You must care entirely about finding the perfect mathematical move while completely detaching yourself from the emotional weight of winning or losing.
And that brings us to his absolute best mantra: treat a loss as a data point. I love this. If you lose a match, a negotiation, or a debate, do not get frustrated. Frustration is literally just a waste of your brain's computing power. Instead, find the exact coordinate, the exact moment where your evaluation dropped. The goal is never to win out of sheer willpower. The goal is simply to play the most accurate moves possible. The wins, those are just a mathematical byproduct of the system.
So, there you have it. You now possess the exact blueprint behind the 250 IQ strategy. You know how to build calculation trees, how to neutralize threats, and how to completely detach your ego to achieve ultimate objectivity. The board is set, and the pieces are right there in your hands. So, with the Ayanokoji mindset finally unlocked, what is your next move?